a little heads up from the Lakota pipeline resistance, as I like to call it. This is the largest gathering of Native folks in one place since the late 1800s for a political reason. There's larger powwows, but this is history. I'm living in one of the camps. There's 3 large camps. And yeah, just arrived, just met my contact, Oompa Noopa, last night. Had a nice long conversation, and that's what you're about to listen to is the opening of a series of conversations I plan to have with Oompa Noopa. So without further ado, here's a little taste of what I'm up to. That's Mike Blue here, and I've arrived with my contact, and my only first friend here. I'm, I don't know, just a few hundred yards away from the Cannonball River, correct?
Correct.
All right. So I wanted to rewind the conversation we just started, and you were telling me about the Indian Reorganization Act?
Yes.
What is this?
The Indian Reorganization Act was passed by Congress in 1934 for the purposes of organizing tribal governments modeled after Western-style democracy. Up until that point, traditional tribal government and tribal councils and tribal headsmen and women were the voices of our people. In 1932, they started coming out, and by they I mean the federal government. John Collier was the name of the man who was the Commissioner of Indian Affairs at the time for the federal government. He came out here. He came to Standing Rock, where we're just north of right now. Yeah. Even though right now we are on Lakota land, this is unceded treaty land where we're at.
Okay.
Technically Corps of Engineer land now, but I digress. And he came to Cheyenne River, Mr. Collier. My grandfather was a man by the name of Frank D. Ducheneau, 4-time chairman of the tribe and a charter member of our tribal council, and he was one of the unelected leaders, traditional leaders at the time, who talked with Mr. Collier directly and the people who came out to tell us what was contained in this bill. And after consulting with fellow council people, we agreed to the Indian Reorganization Act. So it finally made it to the floor of the Senate, and there was much haggling going on the Senate floor, just as there is today.
Over anything.
Over anything. Every little thing.
Oh, sure.
And the bill got greatly altered from what we assented to out here on the Great Plains. By the time it passed Congress as the Indian Reorganization Act, referred to as IRA today, IRA tribal governments, it was not passed as it was explained to our people and as we accepted, as we voted to accept it. And with the limitations on sovereignty. In the Indian Reorganization Act, all tribal council decisions ultimately could be nullified by the Secretary of the Interior. That's not sovereignty, and that's not what we enjoy.
No, that's a puppet state. That's
absolutely,
what
and that's what they created. And in addition to that, when they created this system where where you have these winner-take-all elections and everything, well, that disenfranchises people on reservations and created oligarchies, based on often what we call Tioshpa, clan or extended family size. And it disenfranchised people who normally had a voice in governance, not government, but governance. That we lost that voice, and it started pitting, us against each other in ways that we weren't used to. We usually work towards consensus. We didn't sit around in a council and everybody raise their hand for one guy. No, men, and it was in our way, men would stand up and say, "This is what I feel," or "We need to do this." And if enough people agreed, then he was the Nacha, or the Cha-Cha, the leader of that, and as soon as he did something that went astray of that, well, then he didn't have the influence anymore. He was no longer the leader. This form of government that was introduced under the Indian Reorganization Act brought in presidents and chairmen and tribal council people.
Wait. Just a quick question. So you mean that, like, if one of the men in the group would petition the body politic, for lack of a better term, as to what should be done, and enough people got behind it, then he would be a temporary leader just to...
Well, he could be an acknowledged leader. See, through experience, and wisdom gained, men would be trusted for however long, like Sitting Bull, and the famous names from that continue to this day, Red Cloud, all the great leaders.
and quickly, and then they would, just take a back seat after what they needed to get accomplished was accomplished?
Well, not necessarily at all. Like Sitting Bull was a great leader of the Tlapa, where we're at right now. This was his agency.
Right.
Standing Rock. After he returned from exile in Canada, this is where they domiciled him here. And so, no, he was an influential leader till he died, but he didn't enjoy great influence like he used to. And that's because, the destruction of the culture and the way of life that had taken place by the time they ultimately assassinated him not far from here in 2 weeks before the Wounded
Massacre. Can you tell me that story? Like, what happened?
With Sitting Bull's arrest? Or?
Yeah, his arrest and how he died?
Well, it's a long story, but to make it as clipped as I can for you.
Sure.
By 1890, things were destroyed for everyone from East Coast to West Coast. Domiciled on reservations, spiritual ways, coming under attack, Christianizing influence, all colonizing.
Yeah, the boarding school stuff. I read about that. The whole, kill the Indian, save the man mentality.
Yeah, the famous Carlyle idiot quote. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite frightening to think about how that was done to a culture.
And it wasn't just done to it was the active policy, enforced policy of the federal government and its what would you call it? Warder, or what would it be? As us being wards of the government, as we were referred to as.
Right.
So in 1890, it's rough. Out in California, among the Paiute, emerges a man by the name of Wovoka. Wovoka. And he speaks of a great vision he was given by the Creator, and it involves a newly, cleansed earth. Great destruction, Indians reemerge, and all the whites are gone, buffalo return, game returns, everything. And he said that in order for this vision to be realized, Indians everywhere had to start doing the ghost dance. Wachi Wanahi. And he taught the ghost dance out there. Well, through the Moccasin Telegraph, which was still intact in 1890, after all those centuries of assault, we still, word came to our people here, the Lakota.
Like a foot runner dispatch kind
of
mail
service?
Exactly,
or just word of mouth carrying over
I got
distance. So 2 men from the Huklapa, Sitting Bull's people, Kicking Bird, I apologize, it's been so long. Kicking Bird was one of the men.
Okay, that's fine.
He traveled to California, went all the way to California, heard Wovoka's teachings, learned the songs, learned the ghost dance, and brought that back here by train. Taught it to people, and the ghost dance exploded on the northern plains among the Lakota, on the agencies, because of the promise it held, and a desperate, destroyed people.
Mm-hmm.
And when it came to this agency, when it came to all agencies, it scared the living hell out of the authorities, the United States government authorities. The Indian agents who were in charge here, a man by the name of John McLaughlin was in charge here, town named after him, not far from here, McLaughlin, South Dakota, asked for federal troops, kept demanding federal troops, and as well as the Indian superintendent down at Pine Ridge at Red Cloud's agency, that the Indians were arming and preparing for war by doing this ghost dance, because the dance was intense. You literally danced all day and night fasting until you dropped into a vision. And when in that vision, they say they went to the spirit world and they saw Wovoka's vision realized, and that scared them. And they kept demanding federal troops. And the papers at the time, like the Omaha World Herald, the Bismarck Tribune, the Minneapolis Star Tribune, fed this among the populace in the area, in the region.
The media's never changed, man.
And
I'm in
that's
media
why I bring
myself.
It up.
Yeah, if it bleeds, it leads, and they like to exaggerate and foment strife between, especially racial groups, and that's something that's existed since the dawn of time. Since Mesopotamia or Egypt. But I'm sorry to digress. Please.
No, Mike, my friend, and that's even a relevant point exactly for our situation today, with the Moody County Sheriff up there saying we got pipe bombs down
sure.
here.
I was going to segue into that later, but yeah, sure, yeah. I mean, this is really, really good. I'm very happy that I'm able to provide this to my YouTube channel. I mean, people are going to really dig hearing this.
Right on. Cool. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I know.
Yeah.
So McLaughlin gets the federal government to order the arrest of Sitting Bull. He is in a town, Little Eagle village, not far from here again on Standing Rock Reservation. And on December 15th, they go in with a detachment of Indian police, a large detachment of Indian police, and go to arrest Sitting Bull. They wake him to arrest him. As he's arresting and given the large presence of Indian police there, his people come out and an altercation ensues. And during this altercation, Sitting Bull is shot in the back of the head by an Indian policeman named Red Tomahawk and killed instantly. An incredible fight erupts right then and there. The rest of the Indian policemen, several are injured, killed, and the rest escape luckily with their lives, for them luckily. And Sitting Bull's dead. Well, the news of Sitting Bull's death spread like wildfire. Our great leader, the grief is profound. Down on Cheyenne River, where I'm from, on the west end of our reservation, in deep traditional communities to this day, in Cherry Creek, a band leader by the name of Spotted Elk, who is leading a ghost dance movement among the Minnekoju down there, Minnekoju Lakota, decides that they're not safe and packs his band up, well over 300 men, women, and children, mostly elderly and women and children, because most of the men are gone by then, and decides to go to Red Cloud Agency, about 150 miles south, where he thinks they'll have safety and shelter, given Sitting Bull's assassination in an apparent move against the ghost dance.
Oh, hi. Hello.
Let me interrupt real quick here.
Hi.
Mike
Sorry.
Smith, my sister, Kyan
Nice
de
to
la
meet
Balle.
you. Nice to meet you.
You are going to be doing a lot of talking with her. She
Nice.
is, if she's willing to.
I didn't know you had company, man.
No, this is one of the ones I told you was coming. This Mike is with Film the Police.
Did you bring an axe? Or, a shovel?
No. Sherry's
the other
one.
lady,
Yeah, she's going to
okay.
be here any minute, too.
Okay, good.
So when they get down there, they're intercepted
I do have
before...
a shovel in my car over there.
Rock and...
Right on. Can I get it?
I think. There may... No, Jesse,
That's all right,
one of
that's
our party members left, and he had an e-tool in his backpack. I don't have one. I'm sorry. It's okay.
He's recording.
Yeah, just so you know.
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah.
She's going to work on the file.
This is great for ambience. Like, no, I love all the sounds. It's great Foley effects.
Would you like a chair?
Oh, no, I love the floor. Or the grass, I should say.
Unchimaka.
I'm sorry.
No, I love the horse whinnies in the background and the camp sounds. It's
you should have heard the war songs and prayer songs coming out of the Shichangu camp to the south earlier. Beautiful. Yeah. Motivating.
Yeah, there's all these teenage kids riding around, like, on the horses and just waving at me and smiling. They like my hair. They're like, I love your hair,
Yeah, so by the time Spotted Elk and his band, and he's known in history as Bigfoot, but his real name was Spotted Elk, they're intercepted by the 7th Cavalry, Custer's old regiment. They are detained overnight somewhere in the Badlands, and the next day they camp at Wounded Knee, and we know what happened at Wounded Knee on December 29th, 1890 with the Wounded Knee Massacre. Over 300 men, women, and children killed by the United States Cavalry, who later award 32 Congressional Medals of Honors to their participants in the massacre. And medals of honor to this day, Mike, that have not been rescinded despite repeated pleas and requests to do so by Obama hasn't done it. The greatest president of all time by some progressive minds, has not rescinded the Wounded Knee
I kind of think of him as Bush with a Democratic paint job, but it's kind of like, another conversation. It's pretty Bush.
So that effectively, Wounded Knee destroys the ghost dance. Ends it right there.